not real in that sense.
So after all that buildup, the Mule finally met Hari Seldon, and it quickly became one of the moments he'll come to regret the most. He's been pulling every trick in the book to get it, and in true Mule fashion, he made sure the whole galaxy knew he'd arrived. He made a big entrance by attacking New Terminus while all the key leaders, including Hari Seldon's left hand, were inside the vault. It was a loud and destructive statement, and it worked, because after that it was pure chaos and the Mule was able to take over New Terminus. But that wasn't the end of it, because he was looking for Hari Seldon himself, and to draw Hari Seldon out, he tried something else. He turned his own trauma into a sob story, and now that we've seen everything that went down between them, we're not even sure if that story was real or he just made it up to get what he wanted. But I guess we'll find out soon enough. But anyways, back to the meeting, because the Mule told it like bait, hoping Hari would come down and face him. He even called him a coward and tried to shame him into coming down. And the wild part is, it worked. Because just as the Mule turned around to walk away, Hari finally appeared. When Hari appeared, you could just tell from the Mule's face that this was supposed to be his moment. He finally comes face to face with the great Hari Seldon, the man he's heard so much about his whole life. He doesn't just blame Hari for ignoring him. He blames Hari for shaping not just him, but everything that's wrong with the galaxy. In his mind, Hari is the reason the galaxy is broken, and the reason he became what he is. I think the way the Mule opens this conversation, by accusing Hari of living like a hermit, tucked away in what he calls a pointy little monastery, completely removed from all the pain he's caused, also feeds the Mule's self-justification. Because if Hari caused all this pain, then the Mule's rise. His need for control, his violence, and his obsession can be rationalized as necessary. So to put it point blank, he's just cleaning up Hari's mess, which is why I believe this is bigger than a personal grudge. I think it was more of a philosophical blame game. Also, to be honest, going into this conversation, I wasn't really expecting much from Hari, especially after the way he disappeared in the vault during all that chaos, so I thought he'd be overwhelmed. But he held his own, and I'm not even talking about the psychic lift at the end. I mean right from the very beginning. The Mule tried to blame everything on him, or at least the things that he stands for. From the crops, the imperial quotas, all the way to the maltreatment he had to endure. But Hari didn't let that slide. He said he grew up with a similar background. His family also had imperial quotas too. His dad was a rancher, and he got beat up when the numbers came in short. So he had the same pain and same pressure. But here's the difference. Hari didn't use that to justify becoming a monster. He used it to prove a point, that they both came from hard lives, but only one of them turned into a tyrant, and it's not him. But then we all know that's not the real reason why he's there. Even Hari calls that out after he started to gloat about his achievements in that short possible time. And at this point, I'm sure everyone knows that the Mule actually thought he could read Hari's mind. He felt he could just reach in and pull the answer out. But when he tried, there was nothing, because this version of Hari shows no emotional vulnerability. That's the real reason the Mule couldn't find anything. Not because he failed, but because there was nothing there to exploit to begin with. Hari Seldon designed this left hand as a safeguard, without the emotions someone like the Mule could exploit. And maybe that's the whole point. Maybe the real Hari knew that one day, someone would try to use his mind against him. Not necessarily the Mule, but someone powerful or dangerous. So he left behind a version of himself that looked real, but couldn't be used. So basically a shell that thinks, speaks, and smiles, but doesn't feel. And that's what throws the Mule. What I also find interesting is how the Mule uses his power. He doesn't just read your mind, he sizes you up, and try to see if you know what he needs. And if you don't, he moves on. And that's exactly what we see here. The moment he realizes Hari doesn't have what he needs, he just gives up and walks away. A similar thing happened later on in the episode when he probes Brother Dawn. He was able to pull enough to see that Dawn had met Gaal Dornick. He knew a little about her, but beyond that, nothing. There is no real insight into her people and no clue where they are. It's just gaps and secrets Gaal clearly didn't share. But with Hari Seldon, it's not that simple. The Mule knows Hari worked with Gaal. I mean, everyone in the galaxy knows that. So when he reaches in and finds nothing that's different, there's no plan, no connection, and no trace. That doesn't feel like ignorance. In fact, it felt like someone made sure this version of Hari wouldn't remember. And for the first time, the Mule's not sure who's bluffing who. And of course, we can't talk about this exchange without touching on the psychic lift. I think that was the real climax of this encounter. At this point, we were past the threats and the mind games, because the lift changed the entire dynamic between Hari Seldon and the Mule. Hari didn't fight back with force or try to outsmart him with some dramatic reveal. He just stood there, calm and in control. while the Mule, the supposed most feared metallic in the galaxy, got lifted off the ground like he weighed nothing. And I think this came as a huge surprise to the Mule himself. You could see it in his eyes. He was taken aback, because it all started when he couldn't find what he was looking for in Hari's mind. And he hasn't experienced this form of power, well, at least being used on him before. And for a second, it was like his life flashed before his own eyes. He had blood coming out of his nose and he looked shaken. Also, after everything that happened in the vault, and after vanishing in front of the entire Foundation, this felt like a huge redemption for Hari Seldon. Well, in my eyes at least. And I'm sure Ebling, his biographer, would be proud, because the last time they faced the Mule, when he looked to Hari to do something, Hari just vanished. But this time he's showing us that I may not be the original, but I'm not powerless. But more than anything, this moment cracked the image we've had of the Mule all season. Right from the beginning of the season up until now, he's seemed untouchable. He's taken down planets. He's cold, calculating, and always 10 steps ahead. But in this scene, you see him lose his grip for the first time. He doesn't get the answers. He can't read the mind, and he's forced to retreat. You could just see the fear in his eyes. Why Hari let him live? I don't think the Mule expected to survive that, so when he was finally dropped and realized he was still breathing, he had to ask why he's being allowed to live. And Hari said the Mule has a secret, and when Hari learns that secret, it might be useful to him. But useful how? That's what makes this moment so dangerous, because it tells us Hari's not just trying to defeat the Mule. Well, not yet at least. He's studying him, like a scientist studying a virus. And I think in this scene, Hari got something way more valuable than revenge. He got leverage. He also saw the Mule break and he saw his fear. And now he knows there's something buried even deeper. Something the Mule is hiding. And if that's true, killing him would have been a total waste. And could this quote-unquote secret be that the Mule we have right now isn't the one in control? What if he's the puppet, and someone like Magnifico is the one pulling the strings? Which wouldn't be far-fetched, because in Isaac Asimov's original Foundation novels, Magnifico Giganticus is actually a disguise worn by the Mule himself, not a separate person. He poses as a harmless clown to gain trust and access to key locations and people. So in this TV show version, that disguise allows him to travel unseen among people like Torin and Beta, while secretly manipulating events. But even if you feel like the show might be going a different route from the books, just go back and look. Magnifico's been hypnotizing crowds with his music. He always knows what to say, always in the right place. And the Mule treats him like a harmless sidekick. But he's everywhere. And the more you watch him, the more you start to wonder, what if Magnifico's not the bait, and what if he's the trap? And this makes the Mule even more dangerous. Because if he's being controlled, then whatever secret that Hari thinks he has might not even be his secret. It might belong to someone else entirely. And that also brings us to Demerzel. If the Mule is such a massive threat to the Foundation and the people in it, then by extension, he's also a threat to the dynasty. So why hasn't Demerzel done anything? He's dismantling planets, taking hostages, and spreading like wildfire across the galaxy. And now he has Brother Dawn in his custody. And she hasn't made a move. Well, obviously we know she's not yet aware, but I feel like she's someone who can shut that whole Mule thing down just like that. So is it like she's blind, or is she playing her own long game too? Remember, Demerzel isn't loyal to personalities. She's loyal to the dynasty itself and the hidden rhythms that keep the Empire alive. So if she believes the Mule's rise fits into a larger plan, one that she's been shaping in silence, then from her perspective, standing down is more of a preservation than a betrayal. Regardless, it'll be very interesting to see how this plays out. So I guess maybe that's why Hari let him live. Because he saw what we're all starting to see. That for all his power, the Mule is still ruled by fear. And more than anything, he fears one person. Gaal Dornick. Although he told Dawn he doesn't fear her, he's just excited to meet her. But she's the one he can't stop thinking about. You could call it obsession. But maybe it's not that simple. Because if you knew someone out there was born to stop you, wouldn't you be obsessed too? And speaking of obsession, I find the relationship between Skirlet and the Mule surprisingly sweet. Yes, he killed her father. And yes, he may even be manipulating her mind. But none of that changes how he treats her. There's something playful and gentle in the way he talks to her. A softness we haven't seen with anyone else. He calls her his favorite little warrior. And it reminds us, for all his power and ruthlessness, the Mule isn't just one thing. He's multifaceted. But let's be clear, that complexity doesn't make him less dangerous. In fact, it might be what destroys him. Because if he keeps chasing Gaal like this, it's either going to end with her or because of her. But let me know what you think in the comments. And if you like this, you can also check out our other Foundation videos right now. Be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and catch you in the next one.